Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to Robocraft with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome to the new patch, Team Orders. Today, sir and sirettes, we're going to be covering the new patch, giving a brief overview of the major changes. Of course, there'll be a link in the description for the full overview, and giving my opinions on each. Honestly, sir and sirettes, it's a very positive opinion. Other than the only one thing I have a gripe with, of course I have already covered in the video, is the new way in which new players will tier and the way you can kind of bring very odd small robots into battles if you're in the mood to troll. That's the only negative, which honestly we will not be covering in this video because I've already covered it to death and I'm sick of talking about it. So today, sir and threads, we are covering the good aspects of this update, and my lord do they outweigh the negatives by so much. So first of all, as you can probably see in front of you, there is indeed a new Carbon 6 item. Not exactly the biggest change in the world, and I know lots of you this won't really make too much of a difference to, but if you're like me and a sucker for cosmetic alterations and honestly things just looking freaking awesome, then this is, well, right up your alley. The new Carbon 6 SMG sadly is only available for Galaxy Cash at the cost of 1,125, just slightly more than the regular tier 10 thruster. Other than that, it responds and acts in the exact same way. Of course, there is no power boost to buying them. As you can see, I recently bought some. So, yeah, I couldn't help myself. I wasn't going to buy them originally, but honestly, they do look fantastic. They don't, to my knowledge, have any special effect in combat or in terms of their lighting or the fire behind them. They do act as a regular plasma. It's simply a reskin, but it is a pretty darn nice reskin, of course, purely cosmetic. So if you don't want to pay for them, you simply don't have to. There is no impact on the game. So, of course, that's the first minor change, which I think is a nice way to start. The second, I would say, is a minor change, but kind of isn't, is the fact that the Robo Shop is now stocking 3 brand new robots, but has had to remove all of the others. Of course, the reasons for this is the ranking changes in addition to CPU caps, which we'll just be discussing later, have caused them to no longer be functional or simply don't abide by the correct rules. So here are the new robots. We have the Avalanche, which honestly I've seen a lot of use of from multiple people, YouTubers, other players, streamers, and it does seem to be really powerful. The Razor Strike, also being absolutely fantastic, and finally the Terramite. So all of these, honestly speaking, are a lot better than the previous robots. Most people have been agreeing. I haven't played with them myself, obviously, so I can't give you my exact opinion. If for that, I would recommend going over to Showmofo's channel. I'll give a link in the description, as he has covered the patch as well, and has actually covered these robots. I will not be doing that myself. But honestly, they all seem to be a hell of a lot more effective than the old robot bots, actually putting up more than a decent fight. So, after that, let's get into the CPU caps then. Well, there we are. I've decided to redo this section. I originally simply spoke about it in-game, so this bit's being edited in afterwards. So here we are with the new CPU tiering system. This is all to do with the new way that FreeJam wishes to rank up players and, of course, try to protect them in their more frail state as they tier up, which of course is a very noble cause indeed. So first of all, we're going to be discussing the actual CPU tiering system, although that's not exactly the first thing they bring up. It is the thing which has been one of the most contested, so I certainly wish to speak about that. So with the new CPU tiering system, sir and sirs, as you can see in front of you, the lovely numbers there, in each tier there is a new cap of CPU. If you go over this cap, you will actually go into the next tier, which is actually an interesting thing, because people didn't quite think about this, but if you do level ridiculously quickly at a certain level, you can actually tier up simply by making your robot beyond a certain size. If you're in tier 1 and you manage to somehow get beyond 532 CPU for your robot, even though you haven't got the robot ranking to progress, you can actually progress to the next tier simply by increasing your CPU, although this is a very rare occurrence, as leveling tends to go along with ranking, and ranking tends to beat CPU, particularly with how effective the guns are are currently at tiering you up, this is something to consider if you are one of those people like me who like to completely finish a tier before moving on to the next, and I actually quite enjoy that. It's an aspect I didn't think I would enjoy, but actually since it's been released, I have had to change my mind. I do definitely enjoy that. Of course, the one thing to be said, and I think everyone's saying it, is how will this affect creativity? Well, of course, right now this does mean in regular battles, and of course in Classic, you are limited to the CPU you can bring until tier 10, which of course has the regular limit of 1,511. This means that some art bots have been kind of, well, removed. But this is promised to be completely altered in the future with the addition of the hub and the pit, which should replace and kind of give a reason to use your art bots once again. So please don't go around destroying your art bots just yet. I know a lot of people have, because I didn't realise about exactly what the pit or hub is. Now, I don't want to go into detail about these because they haven't been officially released yet, but essentially it's a free-for-all kind of area where you can go around with your friends. It's got a lot less restrictions, and there are ideas kind of floating around about making this even more so for people who wish to use very large robots, etc. So please don't destroy your art bots just yet. Free Jam does have purpose for them, I really, really do think. Trust in Free Jam and they will deliver. Okay, so next we have the player level progression. Now this is the one thing that I personally have had some issue with and have been, well, ranting about in all the wrong ways. Recently I have had my words misconstrued, I have said it all in wrong ways, etc. So I won't be covering this that much right now, other than I do believe it needs to be tweaked quite heavily at the moment, as like I say, you can force yourself to tier up exceedingly quickly at the moment. Although it wouldn't be the most fun experience in the world, it does certainly rocket you forward if you go with a pure gun tiering build. It's not really too much of an issue, honestly. Well, it really won't affect me in any way, personally, but it is a bit of a silly way of tiering up, and that's all I'm going to say. I do understand the reasonings behind it, I just believe that it could have been a better way of going about it. That's all, honestly. So the next one is just above the CPU limits. We actually have it already there. I'll scroll up a little bit with, you know, my amazing scrolling skills. So it's the improved tier ranking systems. This essentially means you cannot use a tier above gun in your tier. So if you're in tier 1, you'll be using tier 1 guns. If you're in tier 2, you'll be using tier 2. Of course, the big thing with this is it means that it will no longer bring higher tier weapons in terms of medic guns into tier 5 or rail guns into tier 3, etc. They will stay where they are meant to be in that tier, and that will give newer players a much better experience in terms of not going against different weapon types. That's the biggest thing for me, and one of the things I tended to try and avoid most of the time when I did over tier was bringing types of weapon that were simply not available to the players you are fighting, as I find that to be a confusing prospect to the new player. Even if it would of course give them some excitement, something to look up to and something to go for in the future, I do completely understand this was putting off a lot of new players, so certainly a change I can't in all good consciousness say I'm against. Okay, onwards as I was saying. Okay, yeah, the final one I want to very briefly cover is just this here, the minimum armor class requirements. So this is an odd one as well. Honestly, it's very easy to use. It's not exactly a very hindering thing at all because of one big factor. It's not every single block needs to be above. It doesn't actually say it very well here, but it's actually the averages. If you are in tier 6, your armor must be at least tier 5. Now the thing is, it's your average armor. Your average armor needs to be tier 5. This has been proven and tested. So if you had, let's say, 10 blocks, at least 5, I'm not sure it would be 5 or 6 blocks would have to be tier 5, giving you the average of tier 5. Another thing brilliant here is actually the Megabot change. This is the biggest one here for the armor class requirements I actually adore. It's that Megabots can enter a battle with tier -2 armor. So you can still have your red armor, your dark red armor, however, you can no longer bring white armor, green, you can no longer bring the extremely low tiered armor as a Megabot, which of course does ruin a lot of fun for people because, well, when you bring a Megabot which is so low quality in terms of the items it's produced by, you can lose the game for the team with Megabots being so pinnacle for classic matches. So back to the video, I believe. So now that the limitations are out of the way, we can now go on to the more fun things, the things which everyone is dying to hear about, and these are the changes to the actual battles. Three big things have occurred, and these are, of course, there are other things like like the surrender option, which I don't see as such a big thing, but these are very big things indeed, which I will show you in battle, as it's a lot easier than explaining them in depth. Number one is that now there is a scoreboard at the end of battles. Now this may seem like a minor thing, but for a lot of people who are quite competitive, this is a absolute godsend. It is wonderful in every way. Essentially, at the end of your battle, as I'll show you in a moment, you will get a scoreboard pop-up showing you the amount of kills you have got, deaths, the overall score, which is tabulated by everything combined, scouting, assists, and all sorts of damage done, or healing done, etc., which is wonderful and a very nice way to end the match rather than the previous abrupt teleporting out of the battle, the end kind of way. I actually really like this. Even though I'm not a very competitive person, I actually adore this. So I can only imagine that people who have more of a fierce competitive streak must be going absolutely very, very happy. So, anyway, the next change is that the tower numbers have been altered. There are now only 3 towers per map, making it asymmetrical, and in terms of you can't have one team with 2 and the other team with 2, so it's more likely to be favouring one or the other. Very rarely will it be one on one team, one on the other, and neutral. At least it won't be that for very long. So that has changed, and honestly, I've seen quite a big change with this, as it's made the towers quite a competitive thing indeed. People going against towers has certainly become an oddity. So, of course, that does mean that the tower's effects have changed. Not in a major, huge way, but, of course, you can see that for yourself with the link below. I'd recommend reading up on that, as it's a lot easier than me explaining it. And the final thing, which is quite a big thing, and this is what everyone has been going on about, and I'll try to use as much as possible in the battle in a second. Of course, the battle will be heavily edited. You'll probably only see perhaps a minute of it, and then the end. You can now place pings on the map. You can place little command points on the map, which you can see in-game to your teammates. You can do this by holding down left control and then selecting the option you want. So these options are move here, danger, and on my way. I'm sorry, I completely blanked exactly what the name was for the last one, the little fellow running. So that is the 3 options you can put down for easy ordering of your team. I found this to be particularly good in classic matches, honestly, because of course the Megabot can actually say where the hell he's going, and thus everyone can follow him or her very easily. So let's get into a battle and just show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, here we are with our first battle, and actually our only battle. I'm so used to saying that now it's ridiculous. So I'm just going to show you the start of this battle and then honestly probably the end of it. So as you can see now on the top section, you can see that there are only 3 towers, only 3 segments. The tower positions have changed on certain maps, and as you play, of course, you will certainly see them. This is quite a big difference because the biggest one, in my opinion, is that they've tried to move them out of more obscure areas and make them a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for here? Natural to go towards. It makes the team a little bit more likely to actually deal with it. So the second thing I want to show is this. So here it is, the ping option. There we go, just giving all our fellows over here a warning that there are several enemies all at this particular point. Of course you can still spot, and that is highly recommended. A nice easy warning, and as you can see, it's very easily visible both on the map and actually in the game itself. That's a rail, I should have been focusing on that. Thankfully, flank can take a freaking beating. There we go. I do believe I've lost a rudder. Oh well. There we are. Help out there. I mean, I missed, but I'm still trying to help out. That's the important thing. Can that perhaps? Fantastic. So yeah, I'm just going to skip ahead now to the end of the game. You've already seen kind of the points. I may actually put down another one just to indicate to them that indeed it is a bit of a problem. One of our fellows is saying he's going to move over there, so it's kind of indicating we should push. So back in a second at the end of the match. Well, here we go, sir and sirs. As you can see in the bottom right corner, there is the surrender. I mean, we've already lost, so it doesn't really matter too much. You can bring it up, then you can press yes or no. I'll press no, just for the hell of it. Oh, I can't actually, because, well, the game's over. That didn't actually go too well, sadly. We had a few very small robots on our team, which is kind of interesting, and the enemy were honestly very good. They had a couple of thruster sticks, which were absolutely phenomenal. Like, I've never seen thruster sticks quite as good. Doesn't really matter too much. Anyway, you can actually show these via score now, which is fantastic. As you can see, if you want to see how many assists people have got, obviously I didn't get very many. My kill to death ratio was actually 1-to-1. It was rather bad. I was being harassed by thruster sticks all match, by rails. Wasn't the best experience, but still, Second best on my team. Not too upset. Not too upset at all. Honestly, it was a good match. It was a lot closer than it may seem, to be perfectly honest. It just slowly spiraled out of control. They had almost constant tower control, meaning their over tier rushed forward. Honestly, doesn't matter, because that's not what the thing's about, as you can see here. So if you want to look who's got the most healing, there's no medics on the team, sadly. The most assists, the most kills, you can all see. Well done, Mr. Wibbo, I can't even pronounce that, so I'll just call you Cow. Well done, Mr. Cow, you win. So there we are. I love this screen, honestly. It's a really good example. So there we have it, sir and sirettes. There's all of the important parts I would like to share with you about the new patch. Honestly, I think it's a good patch. Even with my terrible game there, honestly, I played badly. It was just a really bad experience all round. Even with that taken into consideration, the new orders and such, the ability to ping on the map and such is a really, really good addition. I really enjoy it, and honestly, overall, this patch is definitely a really good one, which is going to help progress the game in the future. Like I've said before, honestly, I think it's the last time I'm going to even mention, because I'm sick of it now, is I do believe the tiering up system is a little bit wonky at the moment, and can certainly do with a bit of TLC. Thankfully, Mark has been a really good sport about it. Mark, of course, being the CEO, I've actually had the pleasure of speaking to him. He is fantastic. He does listen to the community. He's been a really good sport about it, and certainly is looking into it. So thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day. Please do take care. And of course, if you have enjoyed this video or found it perhaps useful in some way, or has shed the light on something, and of course, likes, favourite, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly shows that Robocraft is a series you want to see continued for the long haul, for the distant future, because I am still loving this game with everything taken into account. Thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day. Do take care. Goodbye.